What up?
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to Old School or New School. And your hosts this evening are
Nick?
Amber.
and Lance. I wasn't trying to cut my throat.
Good, you had to draw a dotted line first.
Yep. Totally.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
Oh, and hold on. Let me go get the salt.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the M. Bison version. So, anyways. So, Nick,
What movies we doing this time?
So we were sitting around shooting shit, and we're trying to figure out what we want to do, and we realized that we had done a lot of horror because it seems like they're always remaking horror.
Yeah.
So I was all like, "Hey, let's watch Oldboy," and Nick was all like, "What?"
I've never heard of him.
And I was like,
Actually,
"Oldboy,"
I've heard of him. I've never seen him.
and I was like, "Oldboy," and Nick was like,
What?
"They made movies about you," and I was like, "Fuck you."
It would be called Old Man if it was about Lance.
Or it might have been just titled Many Moons Ago.
Or just called Old. Yes, cry. Feed me more.
So, we decided we're going to watch Oldboy. And then we came into the problem of we could find the new one, but we couldn't find the old one. And then I had to call the MVP of the true MVP of this video, Greg 311 down fish sticks, and he found it, and he put it somewhere where we could watch it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Greg. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best work wife I ever had, and
He misses you dearly. He cries for you often.
Very handily, the remake was on Netflix, and I went to Amazon to I went to first IMDb where's the 2003 one?
Tumbleweed
Nowhere.
Tumbleweed went across the
I'm
screen.
going to go to Amazon and buy some, and a couple copies came up, and I went to the comments, and they're like, "This is a bootleg. It doesn't even work in my region." I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm not going to be buying this from Amazon."
I guess we're not doing this one. And then Greg swooped in and saved us. So thank you, Greg. You're the best. So we're going to start with the older one. We're going to give it our ratings of 0 to 10. And after that, we'll do the new one, 0 to 10. And then we're going to go into spoilers.
Yeah, trying to really break down which one we like more and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that involves spoilery bits.
So you've been warned. So bye-bye.
Well,
But that's not,
Let's
it's
let
not
it-
spoilers yet. It's
let them get their score
scores.
first.
There you can go. I mean, it's fine.
No.
No, get the scores first and then decide from there.
All right. So, Amber,
Yes.
if you had to give 2003's
Yes.
Oldboy
Yeah.
score from 0 to 10, what would you give it?
You know, I'm thinking about it, and I'm waffling between two numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only going to get the slightly higher one because I did appreciate the last scene. Or the last few scenes, I should say, in the penthouse. And that's about as much as I'll say. So I will give it a 6.
Oh,
Yeah, I was at 5 as well. So,
It was going to be a 5, but they pulled it into a 6 with with some of the stuff happening at the very end, and we'll go into what exactly really kind of pushed it for that. But we,
you just wanted to ruin my streak.
no. I revealed my number before I knew what your number was.
come on,
so-
Lance. One isn't a streak.
Why do y'all say such hurtful things? So, Nick, if you had to give the 2003 version of Oldboy a score from 0 to 10, what would you give it?
I think I'm sitting on a 4.
4?
I was one off.
There's 5 guesses, 5s all around so far. So,
That's low 5s.
yeah.
So Lance, what would you give the 2003 Oldboy?
When I watched it originally, I would have given the movie don't show yet. When I watched it originally, I would have given the movie a 8. Because I was watching it again, I would give this movie, I'd give it a 6.
Aw. I also maintained it at a 5 for you.
Okay.
No, I got that.
That's fair.
No, I got
Now we have
pick-
to change our numbers because they're going to ask me.
New numbers. That's Because we're moving on to the 2013 one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Hold on.
I think I'm gonna.
Who's going first?
Amber again?
Yeah, just keep the same order.
Okay, same order.
Same order.
Thank you for those helpful sound effects.
And then we're going to go to Nick.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What do you think of the 2013 one?
The 2013 one, I would say that I would give that one a low 7.
Oh, low 7. Okay. I was sitting around a 6 for
I
that.
have them backwards. I have them backwards. I'm sorry. So I did guess 7 on you. So I'm sorry.
I think I'll give the 2013 one a 6.
Yeah!
I shot high on that one.
Yeah, sure did.
Oh, sorry. I went off camera. Yeah, I guess 6.
What was your first number for the 2003 one?
4.
The 20 had 4. And
4.
This one being a 6.
Got it. Okay. The 2013?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would give that movie I'd say a 7.
Oh, I went a little too high.
I nailed it.
Yeah, so we've given our scores. Feel free to watch the movie or movies at your leisure if we've tickled the balls of your interest a little bit.
Yeah. At least the remake is easy to find on
Yes,
Netflix.
it's on Netflix. It's starring Thanos and Scarlet Witch.
With special appearances by Nick Fury and Mantis. Because we're nerds and we think in MCU terms sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I originally did say Bran the first time I saw Josh Brolin, to be fair.
Well,
he's always Bran first.
You said he needs a red headband.
Goonies!
And then later on he's wearing a white headband, and I went, not quite the color you wanted, Amber, but he's bleeding, so... But yeah, so
shall we start talking about the movies?
Yeah, which means we're going into spoiler territory. So if you don't want to be spoiled on this movie, and believe me, you probably don't want to be spoiled on this one.
This is a mystery style movie in a lot of aspects. So if you get spoiled for it or whatever, it's going to ruin the movie for you.
Yes.
Which might be why the older one is a lesser score for me, because I watched the new one and then I watched the old one, which kind of takes a lot of the oomph out of it.
Yeah.
All right. So you've been warned, and bye-bye, and welcome back, and here we go. So I'm not going to start this one out because I want to come running up behind y'all a little bit. I want y'all to talk about the movie a little bit.
So what I did not appreciate as much about the old one is the inner monologue. They had a lot of telling, not showing.
Yeah.
Versus the new one where they really showed.
I think they improved the pacing, even though I think the new one's longer. No,
the old one's 2 hours. New one's an hour 40.
Okay, the new one feels longer at the beginning, but I think the pacing is needed for the story. Because it's like because in the movie, either Odaisu or what was his name? And was it
Joe
Doucette? Odaisu or Joe Doucette. They get imprisoned against their will for years. And in the new one, it felt like we get a little bit of it. We get a lot better, I think, like introduction of kind of sleazy kind of guy he is.
He's just
and not just a drunk lech at first. Because in the Korean one, he's just like a drunken asshole.
He's a drunken asshole, and
that's all we see.
He apparently, like at the beginning, people were saying he was hitting on someone's girlfriend.
Yeah, but you don't see it.
Then he gets snagged like super early on, whereas in the other one you get to build up how much of a piece of shit he is.
You get to see him hit on Silen's girl.
You get to hear the conversation between like him and his ex-wife saying like, she's 3, she's not going to remember me being there.
Yeah.
I need to nail this deal and get this money and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. You build that up nice. You get like him walking around town drunk off his ass and just
I feel like we get a better connection to Joe than we ever do for Odaisu.
Yeah, I also kind of like that they show him as kind of a fat, dumpy guy that maybe at one point in time was in shape, but it's just kind of like got the beer belly or whatever. to kind of show the transformation he makes over those like imprisoned.
I feel like, and I like the pacing of the new one better.
Yeah, I like that you're with him in that prison for longer.
Yes.
In the new one, it just kind of like breezes over the fact that he's in prison for 15 years.
But you go through like the ant thing was weird.
Yeah,
I liked more of the clinging to like any vestige of like companionship.
Yeah, it's him drawing the face on the pillow.
His Wilson
mice.
moment.
Mice.
Oh my god, the poor mice.
Where it's like he finds a mouse and he's just so happy to have something to talk to.
And it bounces
and
babies.
it lays like little babies. He's like, oh, you take care of those little babies. And then he wakes up in the morning, they're on the dinner tray.
No. It's like if there's a cover on anything after you make a friend, do not take off the cover.
Yeah, that was very heart wrenching right there. But yeah, I was just like the pacing felt better. And where I feel like there's both movies I think make it so that it's very difficult to identify portions of the mystery. Mm-hmm. In the Korean version, you really get no hints until the very end of oh, this is the twist.
Oh yeah, it's like he gets out of the thing, goes to like, oh, your daughter's in, was it like Sweden or Denmark or something, or Germany or something like that.
You have no idea, where at least in the 2013 version, he's seeing the TV shows and everything. He's seeing things that are telling him this is his daughter.
Yeah.
So you're getting that, and then but the whole mystery of who's behind it in the 2013 one, you could never attempt to guess it, and that bothered me.
Yeah.
That bothered me because I can rewatch mystery movies,
and
because sometimes you can go through and say, what clues did I miss the first time? Knives Out is one of those. Mm-hmm. But there's that portion of the mystery is not there. It's
mysterious. It's not a mystery.
The other twist, I totally sussed out well before it happened.
So I'll go ahead and say this real quick. So she is exceptionally good at like sniffing out the endings of like most movies. And then she passed that curse on to me, and I hate it. I just like,
I love it. It's great.
I like sitting with an empty mind and just watching a movie, and when the ending happens, I go, oh, snap, and then, that's it. And now it's like I get halfway through the movie, and I'm like, what do you think about this? And she's like, I'm at the same thing, and then that's what happens. And I'm like, okay, I just didn't enjoy it as much because I saw it coming. But I thought that this one would have enough twists and twisties and turnies in it that you wouldn't guess it, and then we got to about... we got right at the beginning of the third act. She was like, wouldn't this be a better ending for the movie? Like, wouldn't this be a good ending for the movie? And I went, yeah, that would probably be better than what they had. And like in the inside of my mind, I was like, fuck, she fucking guessed it again. Because she was like, wouldn't this be cool if this happened? And I was like, yeah, that would be kind of cool if that happened. But
so here, I'm going to spell it out, and I'm going to completely ruin the ending of this movie. So if you really haven't watched,
if you did not heed spoiler warnings, seriously,
I am about to ruin it. So when he finally gets out of the prison. Mm-hmm. And he meets Elizabeth Olsen. When he meets Scarlet Witch, in my head I go, wouldn't that be funny if it's his daughter? That was my first thought upon seeing her. But I didn't voice it. I was just like, just tuck that away. It would be funny, but we have nothing to base that on yet. And then we're going along. And then we get to the sex scene between Joe Doucette and I think her name was Mia.
Yeah. Marie?
Marie. She was Maria. And Mia was his daughter. So we get to the sex scene where they sleep together. And I'm like, okay. It's like, hopefully that's not his daughter now. Hopefully I'm past that. But then I was like, then they cut to the bad guy.
Yeah, and he's like, oh my God, they're doing it.
And I'm like... He's like, he had like this euphoric look on his face as he was watching these two, and it wasn't I'm a peeping Tom and I enjoy watching people. I get off on voyeurism. Yeah, there was something profound about what he was watching.
It's like you're watching your plan come together.
And I was just like, that really started bothering me. I was like, in my head I'm like, was it really her the whole time? And that everything, and I literally said, when I finally spoke it out to Lance, I go, wouldn't it be funny if everything he was seeing on TV about Mia was all just fake, that they were just actors, and that at the end of it, it was Elizabeth Olsen was really his daughter, and he just slept with her.
Well, it's like it was the specificity that got me upset, because you were very specific on what it would be.
Well, because I called it out, I specifically stated it was staged with actors, because that was the only way to do it. Mm-hmm. And when he was imprisoned, of course they could just create any programming they want.
Show him whatever he wants. What the hell does he know?
Yeah, I went and watched the old school one, and when they did the reveal at the end of the movie, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, that movie actually stunned me.
But up until you see the glimpse of the wings in her backpack, or in her suitcase when he's put her in the prison for her protection, you have no way to even suspect that that's his daughter. There's no real clue. The only thing that you could begin to think was a clue before then was they briefly show, what was his name, Woojin?
The friend that owned the internet.
No, Woojin. Woojin was the bad guy, I think, in the Korean one. You briefly see him putting a picture in an album.
Okay.
And I didn't get a good look at the picture. I think it might have been one of the ones when she was a little kid. Like when he was in the picture, like with him and the mom holding her hands, I think. Mm-hmm. But I'm not 100% on that. And so that's my only thought, that you could make the supposition of that was your only other clue. There's nothing to support that this is going to be where that one's going, up until like literally you're in the crux of this is happening. Like, it's already happened and they're getting ready to reveal, ooh, look at what we did to you. So it's like, you know, and especially when she puts on the wings about time that he's going through it, and she's just bouncing around like he did in the police station. It's like, in case you didn't, if you forgot about those angel wings, here's the reminder that those were the ones he was getting his daughter, and she's acting exactly like he did. And I was like, why didn't he think, you know, you look a little like my dead wife? You would think she probably looked like her mom, just a little.
They made it hurt extra hard, the new one. But what about you? Did you see?
I wasn't looking for shit, so I didn't see it coming per se.
Okay, but you watched the new one first.
I watched the new. Well, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Because we watched the old one
together
a couple
tonight.
hours ago.
And I mean, what?
It seemed to me like the mystery part of it was kind of like you're not gonna figure the mystery out. So I wasn't really looking for shit. I was just watching it because whatever. I was just kind of curious to like what's going on. I don't have the curse where I have to figure shit out.
Oh no, I have to figure out a story as soon as I see it.
I don't give a shit.
And it was like I said, it bugged me. Mm-hmm. It bugged me that I know that there's two ways there's only really two ways to write a mystery. Mm-hmm. You either give the audience enough to be able to try to deduce it, or there's no way they can. Yeah. And this one would, for the most part, there's no way you could.
You're not going to figure out like why per se.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of like, it's kind of you fucked things up, and you need to figure out of all of these people why you fucked this shit up.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of you're going on the journey with him to figure out like, okay, what did I do to piss someone off that would have me in prison for 20 years? Like, just fucking kill me, Jesus Christ. So he kind of like, in the new one, he kind of goes back to his old school and is like looking around. He's like, oh yeah, I remember that girl. Like, I saw her banging some old dude in a thing.
It was just one of many terrible things I did, and I just put it out of my brain. Because it was like he was kind of like reliving it as he was walking around, like at the areas. Like, oh yeah, I remember this happened here and this happened here.
Even he didn't really fully figure it. It was just like, oh, I saw your sister having sex with some old guy and was telling the school about it. It's like, and that was my father. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Right. And then when they moved back to Luxembourg, I think is where they moved back to, you know, they eventually, and they never really specified why the father just snapped. They never really like, they were inquiring too much, or
I think it was
I wonder if the
stuff from school was
I wonder if the girl actually got pregnant.
That could have been too.
That could have been it, but I think it was more of the way that Charlita Copley's character was talking about the father was like, my father is a great man, or he was a great man. He is a great man. He's done many great things, and I think it was like there was that high reverence of like, you know, dynasty kind of a family thing, and then this thing comes out about you basically doinking your daughter, and it was even worse because like when he goes in to like shoot the girl, she's like starts taking her knife.
He walks in and she's immediately undoing the blouse.
Yeah, and then he shoots her, kills the mom, and then
on the stairs.
Yeah.
And then when he goes downstairs to Charlita Copley's character, he starts unbuttoning his pants, and it's like,
Daddy.
okay.
And I was like, that. I think like, okay, we already figured out that there was father-daughter incest, so it's like, okay, I watch enough Game of Thrones. I'm used to the incest.
You did it. Way to go.
But then when he was like, he's also sleeping with his son. I think that was the part I was like, really?
Yeah.
You just got to keep it all in the family.
I kind of get the sense that the brother and sister were kind of
They probably were too.
I think it was a bit close.
Which makes me wonder: was the mom fucking everybody too? Was it just like they having family orgies?
It seemed like it was just a normal thing.
All
in
right,
that house.
kids, let's sit down for dinner. Remember, we're going to have our appetizer course followed by salads, and then dinner entree, then the sex. Then the dessert.
I think it went differently. I thought it was we're going to have our appetizers, then we'll have the entree, and then we'll have the salads. And then after that, we'll toss each other salads, and then. But yeah, it was weird like that. I guess between the two movies, I was like.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's totally weird.
It's weird.
But I mean, it was like to me, I guess it was worse in the new movie because it was like he was basically screwing his children. And his children were screwing each other, where it was in the old one, it was just a brother and sister. It's still weird, but it was like doubly so in the new movie.
Yes, they twisted the twisted part up.
Well, and the other thing though was like with the twist with Josh Brolin or you know with Joe or Odaisu, specifically with Joe though is. He was very much trying to reconnect with his daughter. His daughter became what his will to live to get through this was. He wanted to reconnect with her. He wanted to become the father that she didn't think he could ever be.
Which I think is what I found more interesting with the newer one. Because I can, like, the journals in the old one were just kind of like, he was just writing down some shit that happened to him. Whereas in the new one, these were specifically letters over the course of the 20 years.
Yeah.
Each being written to his daughter.
Yeah, and I think that was actually another clue that I picked up on is the first person to read them was Marie, yeah. And it was like, you know, it's like I knew he was going to get upset about that, and he did, but then I was like, it's like that was probably her, you know. In my head, there was so much I was going. I really felt and. Honestly, to be fair, some of it was the fact that they cast Elizabeth Olsen, who was relatively unknown at the time. But now that she's not, I was like, I felt like she had to have an important role. And it just felt like there was something more than she was just the nice social worker who was going to be kind of like the Florence Nightingale kind of role. Because at first, it's kind of what they were going with. But then she turned into, you know, daddy fucker.
Yeah. At first she was looking for a father figure, but then she found her daddy.
And then she got her father's member.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Sorry.
No, it didn't.
So in the newer one, I kind of enjoyed, I guess the scene, like they kind of, since we have more time with the jail, you kind of get the sense that he fucking hates dumplings. And eventually, like, he eats the fucking dumpling like the very first time. He just spits that shit out because he doesn't want it. And then over time, you kind of now he just is used to eating it. He's used to the taste. So when he's out and going around to all these places looking for the right dragon, it's in the old one, they tell. It's like, oh, does this taste like the dumpling that you're used to? Whereas in the new one, you just kind of go to a place and you just get the sense that he's going there. Yeah. Through visual storytelling, they tell you that he's
really well shot.
That he is going there specifically to like taste each dumpling because he knows the taste of those fucking dumplings.
Well, he had them every day for 20 years.
Well, not every day.
I think it was once
they were
week.
mixing it up a little bit, but it was always from the same restaurant.
Yeah, it was definitely like on Wednesday you get dumplings or whatever.
Yeah,
and a pint of vodka, or
and on Friday you get mouse babies.
Yeah. What I liked about that scene in it's I've always stated in the show that I like it when they show you something that you are along for the ride on, but they don't hold your hand and walk you through it.
Yeah.
And I did like the fact that he went to the first Chinese restaurant and he's just staring at the dumplings on the plate like,
it's like I got more fucking dumplings.
Fuck, and he's just staring at it. And then finally he just picks it up and goes, how. and then he
gets
goes
up and
goes to the next place and
just throws the money down
and he just keeps doing it. But I liked when he finally found the place. He was like, yum, 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 and ate them all. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to walk in the back now and see what's going on. I did think, I really liked that touch. I thought it was a really nice touch. I know there are going to be people that are going to be upset with me saying this, but it's just, I think the new one was better.
It really was. And then it's not to say that the old one was necessarily bad. And I think that the old one might have gotten higher scores from all of us had we seen it first and not had the direct comparison.
Well, you would have had the gut check.
But the fact is the second one's so beautifully shot. Mm-hmm. It's so well directed. It's so well acted. Samuel L. Jackson was allowed to be crazy, and it worked with his role. Because sometimes they let him be crazy in roles, and it doesn't work. Yeah, it's distracting. But his over-the-top crazy for this one worked.
Yeah, for a guy that takes money just to imprison people.
Yeah, and oh my God, can we talk about Samuel L. Jackson and the torture? Let's compare the two torture scenes.
It's like the torture scene in the old one is kind of like... Hey,
I had to look away in both movies, to be fair.
He goes in and yanks the guy's teeth out.
I couldn't watch that.
That's bad.
That's horrifying just to think about.
But he went there just to get information, presumably. He was in the new one. He went there to kill the guy and also get information. And it's just kind of like, I'm just going to cut skin off your neck and pour salt in the wound.
Well, he was cutting tick marks in him. And he's like, I'm gonna cut your neck, and then I'm gonna pull your head off your body.
Handholds basically, so I can rip your head off your body.
He's perforating his neck. Yeah. He's making tear lines so his head comes off a little easier.
Yeah. But then he starts doing that and fries it up, and that was turning my stomach. Then he got the thing of the salt, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, pour salt in the wounds. And
here's some water. Look, it's more salt.
The torture was much better, and you also get the sense that he was going to finish the job, but people showed up and he ran out of time.
Yeah.
So he just kind of used him as a bargaining chip to and then run away.
And honestly, Lance, I'm going to tell you, I like the fight scene in 2013's better than I did, and that's the hallway scene. Mm-hmm. I liked it better in the new one because in the new one I didn't see the choreography. In the old one I did. I saw many times where they didn't follow through with the kick all the way. I saw multiple times where it was a long shot, and obviously they can't be perfect every time in a long shot. And there was multiple times where I saw a foot went forward like it was kicking him, but you never actually saw it connect, and that took away from that for me.
So you're saying you like the new
I like the new hallway scene better.
I like the newer fight scene there too.
Even though I will agree that the realism of the old one is probably more appropriate, and it was more of a beat 'em up. I think, but I feel like the new one was better shots.
I think the realism of the speed of the fight is more realistic, but then he gets a knife in the back.
Yeah.
Midway through the fight and keeps going and kicking ass, whereas in the newer one, he's kicking ass and then near the end he gets the knife in the back and he's pretty much out. He'll knock a couple people over, but then he stumbles outside and is unconscious. And I find that more interesting. He goes outside, gets unconscious, gets picked up, as opposed to he's bloody as shit walking downtown and he just happens to come across the guy that's there. I find it better that he walks outside and the people are already there waiting for him.
So I like the old hall. So the Daredevil Netflix hallway scene is basically inspired from the scene from Oldboy, which is one shot. I think both of them were pretty bad because there's a lot of I don't think there's really any choreography there. I was like, I'm going to turn to you and hit you, then I'm going to turn to you and hit you, then you're going to hit me from behind, and then it's going to be...
But there was multiple times where you could see in the Korean one where the blows weren't even... Connecting to the point where I could believe that I just hit you, If this was what I was supposed to do, I was seeing them do that, where you could see it didn't connect, but we were still hearing the punch sound. And so you made me key in on stuff like that where I look for continuity errors, and that's continuity
error. I always watch, if the hero is in this direction beating up on you, I'm always watching over here. Because, it has a choreography of, the hero's got to win and hit the people in the orders that are supposed to hit them. But, and this is one of my biggest joys of watching old Shaw Brother, old action martial arts movies from back in the day, is when you have one guy that's fighting a bunch of people, and you have the one dude that was like supposed to run in and get his scene, and if the guy's not ready, they go, oh, and like back out.
Yeah, they step in, but like, oh, he's not ready yet.
Yeah, and then like they're scared and they back off like, oh, and there was like a lot of that in both of these movies. What I liked about the new version of the hallway scene was that there were multiple levels of it. He got rid of one hallway, then he stepped into the next one. The new guys ran in.
Yeah, descended the little ladder.
Yeah, so it was a longer scene, but I don't know if that was a one shot.
I don't think it was a one shot.
I have a feeling that they found places to hide a cut, because otherwise, because either way, they're impressively shot scenes, difficult to do. It's going to be hard to do something like that and not show the cuts or whatever.
What I like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But I was going to say, I think between the transition between floors, they might have panned the camera in such a way,
or it's like they go behind a beam or something.
Or like he goes down below a thing, so that way you can kind of like cut out everything above and stitch them together and make it flow a little bit. Easier for your team.
What I liked about the old version of the scene was it was longer and it was interesting in the new version. What I liked about the old school version was there were things that were happening that were plausible. Like at one point, there's a dude who runs up to basically kick him, and you see him basically twist his ankle on blood on the ground. So he just goes down like holding his ankle, and like the actor. I don't know if that was scripted or if he was just trying to take a shot at him when it wasn't supposed to happen. So he's like, "Oh, I'll just fall down because I slipped in blood." And then but the actor didn't like just lay down. Like the old boy went back over and was just like pap and then like hit him to knock him the fuck out. But he got the dagger in the back halfway through the scene. You could tell that everyone was fucking exhausted by the end of the scene. But the thing I loved most about it was he beat everybody up in the hallway. He turns, looks at the elevator. The door rings. It opens, and the camera, you see the light hit him from the elevator.
Yeah, you see his face.
And it's just his face in the camera. And then he does that big shit-eating grin. And then it switches to the elevator where they're looking at...
he does the psycho grin from the poster, and that was in his jail cell.
Yeah,
his grin was creepy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's him standing bloody as hell with a hallway full of people who are dead or dying behind him, and he just smiles at him like,
See, I feel like
I loved that part because everybody in the elevator was just like, oh,
Odaisu killed a lot less people than Joe said. Joe said, like, I'm still concerned that he killed those football players.
Yeah, which I also
felt bad for those football players because they were just trying to be helpful to the fact that it looked like he was trying to kill the girl, and he was harassing a girl, and they were just like, "Hey, man, maybe you shouldn't do that." I felt bad for them.
Which I liked that scene more in the new one than the old one too, because in the old one he kind of goes and takes the guy's cigarette, and they're like, "I'm gonna beat you up," and then you have the fight scene, but it's him narrating over like is my imaginary fighting going to be enough? Oh, it is. Like, don't tell me. I can tell by you beating them that it's good enough. Versus the new one, I like that he was chasing the woman with the tick marked umbrella, and he was like trying to do a thing. He gets interrupted, and the people just keep like fucking with him afterwards because they're like, "Hey, leave her alone," and he's trying to go away, and the guy like pushes him, whatever. He's like, "Nah, fuck this. It's time to go off."
Yeah,
and it feel like more of a scene in the connected in the movie versus just kind of a a one-off.
The scene with the guy and the dog is very disconnected from the Korean one for me. It's just like it just exists.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of those. I feel like a lot more of those. Like it feels so many of the things are a little bit more disconnected.
Well, that's the original one. It's like Odaisu or whatever. Like when he gets home with the sushi chef. She's like, I'm going to go in this bathroom and the door's going to be locked, and he like rushes in to try to like have at her. They're like, I don't like this guy.
Or the really creepy conversation of one day I will let you screw me, and when that you'll know by as I'll sing this one song, and then you can suck it to me.
And then she just holds.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's some of what kept like I don't know, like had we watched that one first and then we watched the new one. Those scenes still wouldn't be like, those are weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
We didn't have, at least Joe wasn't saying, oh, I'm going to go do that, But he also didn't, like, he at least was able to get it off while he was in the prison, as opposed to Odaisu, who tried to, and it seemed like he fell asleep before he could.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting in the newer one, too. Because they were very clear about, like, it's October 16th, your daughter, in 1993, your daughter's birthday. and whatnot, to kind of drill in what date it is. And then, like, as he's kind of in the prison for a while, and he's finally like, I've been in here a long time, she's working out, I'm going to go ahead and have a little bit of fun. They use that time to go and snatch his DNA, because, hey, he's just got some freshly spilled DNA that we're going to need.
Yeah.
And it ends up being almost a year later. So he's been in prison for like a friggin' year. Imprisoned rather than in prison, because he's not in prison. He's just being imprisoned for like a year. So it's kind of like, man, they've had him in here for this fucking long. And I really felt the time tick on as they're kind of ticking through. Yeah. Through the years, and I was kind of like keeping count, like, shit, he's been there for 8 fucking years now. Now it's fucking 13 years. Jesus Christ.
And the funny part about that thing, I liked how they kept the time of letting you know how much time was passing when you saw like certain president's inauguration, 9/11. Like you could see it progressing through the years just by what he was watching on TV. But I think I like the execution of the TV show and the new one better.
That was great, because it makes, again, it connects the story of the daughter, so that way you don't forget that he had a kid. Because in the Korean version, you forget there's a kid.
Yeah, but like, so that's where I feel like the Korean version did it better, because it's like, this is what's happening. He has a kid. And then they basically just completely draw back on that. So you're not thinking about that at all until you get to the end where it's like, I told people that you slept with your sister.
But there's no emotional connection other than the fact of, that's really gross, you screwed your daughter. But how were you supposed to even know? They did nothing to even remind him, hey, you're stuck in here and you don't have your family anymore. You have nothing. The only thing he got was the confirmation that his wife had died. That did get... But they do nothing about the daughter. They don't mention that she got adopted, nothing. There's no follow-up on that. So it's just like, okay, that's just passing. And it's a hanging question. But at the same time, if you don't attempt to make it resonate for the character, how is it supposed to resonate for the audience? So I didn't feel the compassion for Odaisu's anguish like I did for Jodo's set.
It's like you can keep it to your chest and hidden, like in the old one that they did, and then sneak up on you like, hey, you never saw that one coming. But that gives you less of a connection to the character, because in this one, like, they keep feeding him alcohol every single time, and he was drunk before, and for most of the time he's just sitting there chugging away, like keeping himself drunk. And like after seeing his daughter on the thing saying that she could potentially forgive someone, he decides he's going to turn it the fuck around, and you get to see that kind of
so
that turning point in his character to give him the reason of he's not just in here for revenge, he's in here to turn himself around to be better for his daughter,
and it creates an emotional connection for you at that point, because you want to root for him, you want him to reconnect with his daughter, not in the way that they showed us, but you want him to reconnect with her, because you're like, okay, we didn't see anything that he did that should merit this kind of treatment, but he wasn't a good guy, so bettering himself to get back to her seems like a good thing to do. But in the Korean version, we don't get that emotional connection. So when he's willing to cut out his own tongue to prove how much that he's hurt and anguished by Woo Jin's actions, it doesn't pack the same emotional connection as when Joe's begging for death, so he doesn't have to live with the...
So here's where I think the movies are different, and this is why I think I appreciate both of them. In the Korean version, it's basically, hey, it's my daughter's birthday, I'm drunk, and I'm kind of a dick. And then him sitting in jail is like, who have I wronged? Who have I hurt? Who have I insulted?
Joe did the same thing.
Well, Joe mainly just wrote letters saying, hey, I was a dick to my daughter. This was a guy basically...
He did the list.
And he was at the intercom speaking out the list.
But like all of the stuff that he wrote were letters to his daughter in the new one. And the old one, it started out with, who is everyone I've wronged? So let me sit down and make a complete mental stock of like everyone it could possibly be. And it was like he was even getting as shallow as people I've insulted or people I maybe have embarrassed. And like
and yet he still missed the person.
But when he, like, the thing that stood out to me about that scene was that when he finishes making the list of people he's wronged, he's already completely filled the first notebook. Because he's like, it could be this guy. He closes it and puts a full notebook down. And then that's when he goes to the next book where he starts actually talking about chronicling what's happening in here. But he never really talks to his daughter, per se.
Yeah, but there's less talking to the daughter.
Yeah. So to me, in the old one, it was more about... I'm a fucking dick, and it was more of it. It was him being me-centric because, like, his character in the old version was completely disconnected from humanity, almost altogether. It was just about he wanted revenge for whoever put me in jail. I'm gonna tear off your fucking head. I'm gonna shit in your neck. And the new one, it was like I'm gonna find out who did this and took the time away from me from my daughter.
It's kind of like when he got out, he was gonna try to find his daughter, but then the guy behind it all is like, you're not doing that. Like, here's all these ultimatums and shit.
But I feel like the gut punch was harder in the older one because A, you don't see it coming, and B, it was Joe's love of his daughter that was making him go on this revenge road because I've got to get back to my daughter. I have to play this game and I have to get back to my daughter because this guy's got her. And then in the older one, it was, I'm a terrible person. I want revenge. I fell in love with this girl. Would I have met this girl had it not been for the situation I was in? And I deeply love her. And then, oh my God, it's my daughter. Like, to me, I thought the framing was better in the old movie because when you guessed it at the point that you did, I was still surprised that you guessed it because you put in the small thing of what if they were filming a fake show? Like, when you said that, it was like, how the fuck did she come up with that? Because, like, the show was plausible enough to me because they did a full episode and that was a blurb of this guy did this. So there was other events around it and then they fit this in like it was America's Most Wanted. And then it was like, they had another episode where we revisit Joe Doucette's daughter, you know, so many years later, and could you forgive him? So it was like the what was it? The longest running show. It's a show that went on for 20 fucking years. Yep. And it was just like a mention here or there about Joe Doucette's life, but it was enough to get him hooked. But it was like, it was love my daughter that makes me want to get back to her because I want to get back to her. And the old one, it was like, I'm a piece of shit and I want to hurt the person who's hurting me.
Which gives me less of a connection to him in the old one.
Yeah, I did not feel particularly connected to Odaisu.
I get it. I mean, I get what y'all saying. It's just, to me, it was more surprising because there was no lead up to it.
Which I think is
a
detriment.
The only thing that got this to move from a 5 to a 6 for me was that final scene where earlier in the movie, in the Korean version, they talk about Woojin says, I think it's Woojin. I still feel like I'm not quite correct, but he's like, oh, you know, I have this pacemaker and this controls it and I can turn it off. And after he's humiliated him and Odaisu is like, I was like, I'll be your dog, I'll be your puppy, and he's going around and he's acting like a dog and he's licking his boots and he's cut out his tongue. Then he's like, Woojin drops the
remote.
The remote, and he's walking out, and it's like, okay, and of course he goes. Odaisu picks it up, and you see the smirk starting to form on Woojin's face, and you see him push the button, and then you hear the sex. That I was like, well played, sir, well played. That was beautiful because it's like, and that's what gave it a 6 for me, was because that was a master stroke. That was
yeah, it was
beautifully played.
Master stroke into his daughter.
I think that's. I was watching like the movie or the new remake. And I'm like, this movie's pretty good. I think this might be a 7. It's like, I made you screw your daughter. Nah, okay, it's a 6.
Well, it's so.
I'm not a big fan of that twist.
I agree with y'all are saying about the detriment in the old film, but I feel like it's more impactful in the old film because it was like, I wasn't a person who cared about my daughter, and it was only after I got imprisoned and found out how terrible of a person I am when I, self-analyzed myself, that I want to be back with my daughter. Mm-hmm. And you've stolen these years from me. And the new one, it was, you stole 15 years from me. I've had a lot of time to sit and think about who it could possibly be. And when I get out of here, I'm going to fucking murder you. And then he meets the girl, he meets the girl and he falls in love with her, and it's like, oh, I'm in love. Oh my god, I'm so happy.
But then them falling in love wasn't even earned. It was hypnosis.
They take that away by saying we hypnotize you to fall in love.
And honestly, it felt weird. Like them, like I liked you immediately, and it's like I didn't feel the chemistry. I didn't feel it being earned. I at least felt like there was some sort of a connection and something simmering between Joe Doucette and Marie.
They build it up with Marie of kind of like she's got this whole like drug addiction thing that she's getting over to the point where she's working in this little clinic because she's kind of a fan of the lost causes.
Yeah.
And they get a lost cause dropped in her lap, so she's kind of like, here's this older man I can connect to. I never really had a father.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I just like the fact that he fell in love with this girl and thought this could be the love of his life, and then you find out it's his daughter, and he's just like.
I never even felt. Oh yeah, and that really.
And then he stays with her.
He has himself hypnotized so he can continue an incestuous relationship with her.
Yeah. Could you please lock away the monster part of me so that I can keep Daisu happy?
Yeah, and then it's, I'm sure she locked that thing away. You'll forget that you slept with your daughter, and then she comes back, you're still sleeping with your daughter. You'll snap out of it.
It wasn't that he slept with his daughter. It was that she was his daughter. That was the memory she locked away, was that the knowledge that was who she really was.
Yeah, but I'm sure she put in a code word there. It's like as soon as you hear her say, "Oh, Daddy hit it again," all of that comes back. So he's just like, "Yeah, all right. Oh, Daddy hit it again. Oh God." So,
but yeah, no,
that's how they get you. They keep coming you back.
Or at least in the new one, he's kind of like, "You're never gonna hear from me again," and I'm just gonna go live in my prison forever.
See, I like that because it's like, I am going to be suffering with this information for my whole life, but he made sure she did not have to live with that guilt and burden.
Yeah. I also like that the villain or whatever, he could just kind of looking like, I got what I wanted of this guy. I don't need to ruin her life anymore. So he just kind of like hung it up and it's like he drank in his suffering and it's like pep pep. Whereas the old school the older one villain just kind of didn't see him like he had much in him at all.
Well, it's like, he's been living for revenge, and then he got his revenge, and it's like, after I got this joy of like getting you back, like what is left? There's nothing's going to be as great as this. So it was time to basically just end it.
Yeah, he just
and that was the same way with Charlita Copley. Whenever he got Joe, he leaned down and was like, "We're sharing this.
Oh, yeah.
You understand what I was going through now."
But I felt more of a connection with that version of the villain because he kind of like, I'm putting you through this, so like we're on the same page now. Samesies.
Yeah, you know my suffering now. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned it at any point. Spike Lee did this movie. He was the director of this particular flick.
Which I've unfortunately, like reading his IMDb, apparently he's disowned it because they cut like 40 minutes of his film out, and he's like, it doesn't feel like it could have been.
Oh, we have to find that.
I don't know that it exists.
I don't know that. Yeah, I think it was. I don't think there's a director's cut. I think it's just kind of the studio.
Release the Spike Lee cut.
Right.
You did it for Zack Snyder.
I don't know if 40 minutes more to that movie would make it better. Maybe it would. But movies...
Maybe it's the mystery of who Charlita Copley is, where we could figure it out before the reveal. That would be awesome. Where we get anything.
The movie has a thing to figure out, but it's not for the audience to figure out.
And I mean, I get it. Sometimes you need the audience just to be in the dark with that, but that's usually better suited for like supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they do it in everything. It's like Sherlock Holmes movies, you watch them, and you're just like, okay, I get it. He's brilliant, and he's going through the blah. But it's not until the very end of the movie, he's like, sulfur nitride in the bathtub. When it heats up to this temperature, it makes this aroma, which puts you in blah. Like, they're never actually, like, telling you what's going on.
But that's also why Sherlock Holmes is kind of not very good.
I liked the movies. I liked.
They get boring very fast, and they're not rewatchable.
You know what I really wanted in the Robert Downey Jr. one is for when he was in the fighting pit. I'm like, are they making Sherlock Holmes a fucking fighter? But then they like did the slow motion thing where he's going to do all this shit and
then get punched in the face anyways.
I wanted him to go through this entire thing and then get decked and knocked out anyway, because I'm like, that would have been fun and fitting. You don't need Sherlock Holmes to be a punchy guy. Like, I'm super good. I'm smart, so I'm great at fisticuffs. Like, no, it's like, I'm smart. It's like,
Yeah,
Down he goes anyway.
That would have been good too. I agree, but like, that's they're just trying to establish early how his mind works. Because I'm also guessing because he's Sherlock Holmes, he's probably observed this fighter fighting in the ring before too. So he's like basically predicting what he's going to go to. But the fact that
I could watch a guy fight 1,000 times, he's still going to punch the shit out of it.
It's the fact that they shot that scene where it's like you have the one scene where they're basically fighting and doing the thing, and then you have the other scene where it's like different takes in slow motion of what he's going to do here, cross-check the ears, blah blah blah. And then it was exactly the same thing. Like, it's one thing if you're like, this is what he'll do, this is what I'll do, this is what he'll do, and it looks different. But then, like, it's like they shot that scene with 3 cameras, and then they chopped all that footage up to be like, this is how I'm going to approach this. Yeah. And it was the same fucking fight. Yeah, it's one thing to be able to predict what's going to happen. It's another thing when you, like, Nostradamus of this fucking, 1 minute in your life.
So, I've got a question. In the Korean version, we have that really weird scene in the end where they're talking about Suya, I think was her name, and Woojin. And Woojin's like, it wasn't my dick that got her pregnant, it was your tongue. So, but they never really confirm, was it really a hysterical pregnancy or did she actually get pregnant? Because it seemed like...
I think it was... rumors of her being pregnant is kind of what
and that created a hysterical pregnancy in her.
And she kept hearing it over and over to the point where she believed it.
So and then it emulated it. So that's a hysterical. Okay.
Yeah, that's what the impression.
That was what it seemed like.
She
they
didn't
were
look
going
pregnant
with.
when she felt dropped off the bridge. So
yeah, but I mean, if you're real early, you wouldn't.
Yeah, depending on how early it would have been.
I think it was the.
But it was just one of those things of it's like. The whole line of, it wasn't my dick that got her pregnant, it was your tongue. It's like, that's such a weird line. Especially as you're grabbing your junk.
It's a translated Korean movie. It's going to have, like, weird disconnections here and there.
No, I think that's probably close to what he said. And I think they were very more crass and graphic with a lot of that stuff.
Then there was the ants, which I'm assuming is a Korean thing. It's like, how like when you're lonely and you think of ants? I'm like, no.
No.
Must be cultural. Just to kind of think like you're alone, but like here's this being that lives super socially, and they're always together.
So they're the perfect workers.
Yeah, longingly looking towards ants.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought
we're like ants.
Yeah. I remember the first time I watched that movie, I was just like, okay, that's weird. And then he ate the octopus, and I was like, okay, that's weird.
That was weird.
Yeah.
But I think that was the reason that movie got buzz initially was because he just basically goes to town on an octopus.
Yeah, and she watches that and she's like,
I can't wait for that to be me.
That's the man I'm going to marry.
I must have colder hands.
That's so weird.
But I mean, now that y'all have said that, maybe the awkwardness of her basically going, next time, take me, I'll be ready, sock it to me, and all that. What might have been that they were giving them these hypnotic cues to basically do this and that.
It felt totally like... was part of that, but it doesn't. It just took away from... Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That's just the connection I came up to. It's like you're making this connection from whole cloth, so it's like it's awkward because there's probably no real emotional anything there, and like she's like, even if I begged you to stop, just sock it to me, and it was like, why would you say that? Like, because it was right before that you were like, it's some kind of weird rape fantasy or whatever, and then that's exactly the way it fucking sounded. It's like I might be saying no, but you just keep going, and it was like, who would say that? Like, why would that be a thing? And then she starts singing the song at the weirdest fucking point of the movie, and it was like,
well, she's crying.
Yeah,
after she almost got raped.
Yeah, it was awkward, but
she
like
really was into that.
I remember
fantasy, I think.
I remember when I originally watched that movie, when it got to the ending, I was just like, oh fuck, holy shit! Like it took my breath away. Because it came to that, it hit so hard, where I was just like, holy shit, that dude just like completely rocked your fucking world. Because the fact of that dude waited 15 years. Mm-hmm. He waited 15 fucking years to get that perfect fucking revenge. And like they keep talking about it in both movies. Revenge is something that can sustain you. Like in most movies they're like, revenge is a dish best served cold, but it's like, I don't feel better. And at the end when he gets Joe or he gets Odaisu, he's just like, oh.
No.
And then after
after
he had that, he's like, what's left? Like it doesn't get any better than this. And and both of their griefs, be it for Odicey or Joe, it was exquisite because like they both completely prostrated themselves to the ground and be like, I'll do whatever the fuck you want. Like, it was even worse with Odicey. You want me to be a dog? I'll be a dog. And he's like crawling around barking and shit. Look at me wag my tail. And it's like, okay, the embarrassment can't get much deeper than that.
And that one, the guy was just laughing at him.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Yeah. And then he cut off his tongue, and I guess the guy was like, all right, I guess start. Yeah, I guess we're there.
No, we'll call him and tell him not to open the box.
Yeah. But like, but it was, I think it was even punchier in the new version where like Joe sees it because it was recorded. It's not just a sound bit. Mm-hmm. And then like he basically gets on the phone and calls Scarlet Witch, and he's like, please, I'll do anything. Please don't do this. And he was just like, okay, well, yeah.
That's I think he had his fun. Man was broken, and he's like, we're revenge complete. I don't need to ruin her too.
So one thing that I
wanted you, not her.
Yeah,
the Korean version did a little bit better than the newer version, the Spike Lee one. Is I found it really implausible that the rich dude had cameras at all of those
like everywhere.
How did he know they were going to specifically get that one room at that one motel? There was so much. It's like it wasn't because it didn't feel like it was the phone he was hacking.
No, I imagine for the school, he knows he's going to go to the school.
Yeah.
So he probably cammed every room in the seediest place because Joe still wanted. He's going to go to a hotel.
Yeah.
Super close.
But I mean, it's very implausible with all of the cameras. Whereas at least in the Korean version, the shoes he was wearing had the bug. And then that was how and when he got rid of the bug, he had to resort to other means to track him down. Mm-hmm. And when he was spying on them, he was spying on them from like across the street in another thing where he knew where Mido was staying. So he obviously could have that apartment rented. Mm-hmm. So that there was a better plausibility with those aspects with the surveillance, I guess, of the characters from the bad guy's perspective. I like that better in the Korean one than I did. That was again just the plausibility of all of the cameras being like in the prison. Yeah, that made sense. Okay, but having the okay, when you find out the connection to Marie, okay, that makes sense for hers, but every location is just like when it was in all the specific room, it's like, what, did you have somebody who was working the front desk at this hotel to make sure that they got this one room? There's a lot more of conveniences that have to line up for it to work, or he has basically such little unlimited resources that he did such great ones everywhere. It's just
it's like he's got a guy hired that's just kind of like, they're going to the hotel, whatever. So they go bug all the rooms real quick.
Well, so I would say that
or they just went to a bed and breakfast because they're all bugged anyway.
Yeah, well, that was what I was actually going to say, is that a lot of those little out of the way places have got like any kind of like observation.
Maybe it's previously bugged and he just hacked into it.
Yeah, well, not maybe not even hacked into it, but it was kind of like it probably happened here. So it's like everywhere he went, maybe he's got so much money where he just contacted the hotel and was like, look, I know you probably got something in there. I'll give you a fucking $1 million if you give me a copy of that tape. And the dude's like, well, I usually sell it online for like $500. So yeah, here. Mm. And then what we could have been seeing was after the fact that they had sex where he was watching the playback and he was like, there it is. Here's my fucking moment. And just for pacing, they put it right there, which would have been better if they'd done it later, because then you wouldn't have saw the face. And then you wouldn't have been like, oh, maybe it'd be crazy if she was actually a daughter and like the show was fucking not real. And because I thought, when I watched the new version, I already knew it was happening, but I thought it was a masterstroke of, where's my daughter? This is what you did. This is why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, yeah, give her back to me. Oh, okay, well, you never asked why I let you out. And then they walk him through the studio, and just the way he was doing it, the framing it, the longest running show with one viewer, you. Mm-hmm. And then like he looks at the room that the parents do the interview in, the foster parents, and then he's like looking around, and then he takes her to the window where she's playing the cello. But even when he's putting all that together, when he's looking at the studio, and then she starts playing the cello, and he gets that look like, my girl,
Yeah,
my baby girl.
She's got like the black eye.
Yeah, and she's not even looking at him. She's just looking down, playing the cello, and he's like, "It's me, it's Daddy, it's Daddy." And then she goes, "Thank you, you can go." And she just very dispassionately wipes the black eye off, stands up, and walks up the door. He's like, "No, Mia, come back." And he's just like, "Why? Why am I doing this to you?" And he's like, "I don't know." And when he got down his face the first time, he goes, "You know it. You know it in your soul. You don't want to admit to it, but you know why this is happening." Mm-hmm. And like he finally just kind of belts it out, and when he does that first wail, like it felt real. Yeah. Like it felt real. And but my favorite scene was when he wails and he's crying. Charlene Copley's character literally goes,
yeah, drinks it in.
Like it's like give it to me, give me some more of it. Like
Charlene Copley's character reminds me of a lot of your D&D villains.
So they just make you have sex with your children?
No, like they drink in the
drinking the evil.
They just drink it in. Like they're like, oh yes, I enjoy this. I've lived for this. He kind of had like some of your master strokes of your some of your villains, where it's like, yeah, I'm just evil for evil's sake, and you don't really know until you know.
And sometimes it's fun just to fight a stupid evil guy.
Agreed. So, is there anything more to say about Oldboy?
I think the only other little footnote of that is that they built out the friend a little bit better in the new one.
Yes.
Because in the old one, it's just kind of he picks him up at prison, and then you see him like again a little later, and then
Chucky?
he gets Chucky. It's Chuck in the new one. I don't remember what his name is.
I don't remember. Juwan or something like that.
Yeah, but so he's in like 3 scenes.
I'm unfortunately not very good at Korean names, so I do apologize.
You've been fucking nailing it until that one, but it's like the character was such a bit person. Why
yeah,
do I remember it?
He was so minor in the original one that they built him out.
And
in the new one.
And in the new one with Chucky, like you first see the kind of the connection at the beginning of the movie. And then they bring back further connections.
And they have him helping along with the mystery and stuff,
and that clearly they establish why he would be willing to assist. Whereas like the other one's just like, oh hey, you're my drunk buddy who disappeared after I bailed you out. It's like, okay, they clearly had a strong enough connection for me to be willing to bail you out from the police when you're really drunk. But they don't really do more than that. At least with
it's that there was enough there that if he's obviously talking to the daughter, he must be like a family friend that comes by enough.
Yeah,
but
with like
it's
with Chucky, it's like
he calls himself Uncle too. I think when he was on the phone.
But like
in Asian cultures, any older man would be uncle.
Yeah, but like with Chucky, you have clearly like the whole, the background of they were like basically best friends from this prep school that they went to. Mm-hmm. They've clearly had a bond, and he went to Chucky at first because Chucky was the only person he knew he could trust.
Yeah.
So the implicit trust in it, whereas it didn't feel like there was that level with Odaisu. He didn't immediately go see his friend. Mm-hmm. It was a few days later that he went to see the friend. With Chucky, as soon as he got there, which yes, he did meet Elizabeth Olsen first, but as soon as he got there, that was the first place he went. He went and found Chucky because Chucky is the only person who would be able to help him.
And his best friend.
Yeah.
And I also just like the subtle people teaching Joe technology bits. Or like he's sitting at your woman here's house. He's like, I need to find a yellow book and a telephone. And she's like, here you go. And she just pulls up the phone and just does it. Like I'm not like he doesn't do the this is fucking. He just kind of like, oh yeah. Okay.
Are you a wizard? Well, I like whenever Chucky was like, yeah, you type in the thing, and then you searches, and then you click the thing, and then like when he lets Chucky go to bed, he's like, so. You just put it in the box and hit that, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, all right, you go to bed. I got it from here. He's like, are you sure? Mm. And he's like, yeah, I've been watching you Google all night.
He's not an idiot, but it's just a matter of like he's like
technology has clearly changed enough that he's out of place.
It has not been a focal point of his life. Like people who have grown used to their smartphones. Yeah. Like we all the fucking do. Like, what was that guy's name? I must know. Answer immediately. Answer found. Now it can leave my brain.
Yeah, well, we don't ever get any rush of like discovery anymore because like we can literally go to our phones and discover anything we want to, and it's not pleasing. I still think one of the best Louis C.K. jokes was, remember back in the day, he used to walk around going, "It's Joan Jett and something. What is it? It's Joan Jett and something. And you'd ask people for 3 weeks going, it's Joan Jett and what? And then 3 weeks later, you'd be listening to the radio and it's like, Joan Jett and the Heartbreakers. And you'd be like, Heartbreakers, yes! And you'd get this rush of endorphins as that information was given. Well, now it's all out there. And there's even alternative information if you want that. So, how about you? Any closing thoughts on Oldboy?
Watch the new one. You can skip the Korean one.
Yeah. So I think there
was no real emotional connection to the Korean one, and again, it's not just because the ending twist got spoiled. It was I could not connect to Odaisu. I didn't feel an emotional connection to him. I felt the emotional connection to Joe.
Yeah, I would agree. But also, the inner monologue narrating really was kind of a put off to me, I think.
To me, it's not fun reading movies.
Well, the inner monologue is more of telling, not showing. It's not you showing what the character's thinking. You're telling us how the character's thinking, and I just don't. I'd rather you show like the face and make me figure out what emotions he's going through, rather than him just saying, "I'm sad, sad. Look at sad face" or whatever.
I think Joe was more brutal than Odaisu.
He totally was.
But I liked some of the cinematic things they did in the old one. Like I liked him holding the crowbar, and then they did this is going to go right there, and then they're just kind of like staring at each other. I liked that because
if they had done that stylistically for more, it would make sense. But it was the only time they did it.
It felt out of place with them drawing the line.
That felt more like a Scott Pilgrim thing. Like that's something I would expect to see like in like a Scott Pilgrim-esque movie. And they didn't really build that up.
Or it felt kind of Kung Fu Hustle-esque a little bit too.
To me, I felt like Joe would have just walked in and been like, "Okay, I'm not going to kill you." And with at least Odaisu, he was just kind of like, "Do I really want to kill you? You're just kind of in my way."
He's hesitated. So, he was nowhere near as vicious as Joe.
I would say that there's something to be loved about both of them, but I would watch the original one first. So you can get the gut punch and maybe not figure it out, because there are some obvious tells in the original movie.
Well, they've been spoiled by us by this point.
Yes. Well, yes. But, I mean, if in order to watch...
Unless they somehow, like, skipped everything and are going to, like, the last 3 minutes and hoping we're not going to spoil anything else.
So I watch Double J's videos now.
We put our scores at the beginning, so you can watch just long enough to get the scores and be like, they liked it, and stop, versus having to skip and hope to find the score at the end of the movie.
They never came back again.
Oh, that's memory. I think there is some neat stuff in the old one. I think knowing the twist took a lot out of it, but also then just seeing the stylistic difference between that one and the other one, and the connection I had to the character in the new one. Mm-hmm. I think the new is cool. New's cooler. Old's all right. New's cooler.
I will also say I think the new's cooler as well. And I'm pretty sure you're...
All right. I was much harsher and said you could just skip the Korean one, so I think that's me saying new's cooler.
Yeah, I'm kind of... You could potentially skip the... Especially if it's that hard to find. I don't know that it's super worth the effort to track it down.
Now, I've noticed a trend in these videos where I think we can go back and watch them now, where I think for the most part, we've been saying the new version is cooler, which is not usually something that happens.
Yeah, but there's not always, because the chunky one, I think we both agreed
that the older one was better.
The Ring one we were split on.
Yes,
I like Ring better than the Ring.
Right, and then when it came to...
There was another one we were split on.
Well, it wasn't split. We agreed on... what was it? We liked the new one better.
For Let the Right One In.
Let the Right One In against Let Me In.
Yeah.
And which was weird, because when I watched it back in the day, I was like, the new one's trash. And
I remember that too, which is why it made that one
notable. Which way did y'all lean again for Friday the 13th? Not Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, I went for the new one for Elm Street. He went for the old one. That's the one we were split on.
Yeah, I
knew there was another one we were split on. Where I think, we've talked about that.
Yeah, but
so we've been split, and we've been some newer, some older. Mm-hmm. It's been.
But interesting. Based on the ratings, we all agreed the newer one was better.
Yeah. It's just I don't think I wouldn't rate the Oldboy a 4 and the new one a 6 and be like, the old one's clearly better with my 2 points less. No. It's the new one was slightly boring and also 2 hours. Yeah.
Well,
the new one was... Are you going to hammer me with your screwdriver?
No, I was going to let you finish your thought because I thought you were done. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Well, now I don't remember what I say.
You said it's obviously the new one was better.
I guess.
Well, it's. I think it's the fact that they just don't hold your hand and just be like, "This is what he's thinking at this time, and this is why he's doing the thing."
That's totally part of it.
Because like the dumplings part, I thought was great, where he's just like, "That,
yeah,
that," and then finally he was like,
"They do so much visual storytelling in the new one,
yeah,
but
then so much less in the old one."
The thing I liked about the old one was it was like, yum, this is the one, and then he follows the guy to the place, and then he just looks at the guy instead of like, hurting the delivery kid or anything. He just goes,
no,
put less this in your dumplings, and the guy's like,
oh,
okay.
Well, he didn't hurt the delivery guy.
Yeah, he hid behind the truck and let him pull out.
No, that wasn't the delivery guy. That was the
no, they
minion
picked up,
that went. It was a pickup.
And the new one they picked up.
He went and stole the delivery guy's bike and followed, but it was the delivery guy was not harmed.
Yeah.
In the making of Oldboy.
I just like how he just stared at him at the base and was just like, put less of this in your...
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay. Yeah. And then just, that was it. So, another one bites the dust. That's another one in the books.
Join us next month for whatever we decide to do. Probably something Christmas related, but we'll find. But we'll have to...
Tell us what to watch.
Okay.
Unfortunately, by the time you're commenting this, we probably have already filmed it.
That's okay. I can tell you without putting the comment on there.
So I think we've...
I live in this house. I can do what I want.
I think we've discussed an idea for December, but we've not like put it in stone yet. So
we'll discuss it.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for joining us for Old School or New School. Give Oldboy a watch, I guess. Yeah. And if you want to see Thanos bang Scarlet Witch in a very uncomfortable scene.
Those were definitely her boobs. If you want to see Scarlet Witch's boobs, go back and watch the new version of Oldboy. Those were definitely hers.
All right. Well,
was that inappropriate? I think that was inappropriate. Sorry.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.